Alright guys, time to grab it back again today. Hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and what a fun day of Call of Duty. Just concluded day one of the Kickoff Classic for CDL 2021. Lots of interesting matchups, certainly some matchups that went as I expected. The final match of the day, Atlanta FaZe Florida Mutineers, is certainly an upset in that one. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more in tomorrow's video. The other maps kind of went, well, down to the wire. Well, certainly the Seattle Surge Los Angeles Guerrillas one. The first matchup of the day we're going to talk about, though, was pretty much a whitewash. Enjoy taking your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you guys enjoy the matches? Want an upgrade, honestly, on a viewing experience that we had last year in Modern Warfare, in my opinion? Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you were new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Let's hop into things then. So as Clayster says, a glorified scrimmage today. Let us get it. So of course, scrims, effectively, these matches don't count for anything in terms of points. So maybe you could argue some teams are holding back certain strats. But honestly, I think teams are pretty much trying pretty hard to win these, given that it has a major positive impact potentially on your, well, team morale going forwards. As I tweeted out right here, I calculated 146 days since we last had Call of Duty action, finally back in town, and it was a great watch, especially because of this. As I mentioned right here, the difference between what we had this time last year in terms of, well, the on-screen Codcaster, and this time around, it's honestly night and day, so much nicer to watch. Also the kill feed in the left-hand side is much easier to look at, and as Crone says, some calling cards coming soon, indeed it does seem, because, well, there's some calling cards in the game right now the pros are using in terms of being overlays, but, well, they aren't available to the public as yet, but I do imagine that is coming relatively soon indeed. So the first matchup of the day, Dallas Empire versus the New York Subliners. This pretty much went as expected. Dallas smoked through the Subliners with not really too much issue. It was expected that New York were going to struggle here, given, okay, Dallas are the reigning world champions, and also, well, Clayster's now team with Mac, Diamond Con and Nassim is not in the greatest position, right, given that, well, Zuma had to step out for these unfortunate reasons, but Shotzzy, the season MVP from 2020, dominant map number 1, 35 in 17, dominates here on the Garrison Hardpoint. Then we go into map number 2, and then it was Illy's turn to take over. Disgusting 1v3 here on Checkmate. Yeah, this guy out of control. Honestly, MVP of this series, all things considered. Had a couple of crazy moments here in this Search and Destroy, as you can see. Also in the control, he did a 1v2 on the very next map here. So yeah, nasty 1v3 to put Dallas up 2-0 in this one. Finishes out the map 8 in 4 right here. And all these scoreboards taken from BreakingPoint.gg's new website. Going to be showcasing that much more over these coming days. But yeah, major website upgrades on that side over there, to the point where we can now have these nice scoreboards after every single match. And well, this then in the raid control, we go to map number 3. This round Dallas should have well closed out earlier than they did, but Illy with a disgusting 1v2. I mean, this guy with the XM4, someone DM'd me earlier today to ask who do I think is the dark horse MVP candidate of the season, and I said Illy, because this season around, well, he was kind of overshadowed last time. He was like a selfless player on that team, Shotzzy, who can, you know, the rest of the guys kind of overshadowed what Illy did, but this time around, he's required to be a more slaying player in this XM4 role, and showing today why he is one of the best players in the world. Another disgusting clip here on that raid control, and they go on to close it out in that map as well, as Clayster says, lost 3-0 in the scrim to Dallas. But Waskin makes it clear right here that he'd be pretty happy to team with Clayster if he got the opportunity, but of course, unfortunately, that doesn't, I imagine, work out too well in terms of, well, role dynamics on the squad. So map number 1, or match number 1, pretty much went as expected. Then we go on to game 2, and Dallas slay their way to a 3-0 victory. I mean, all the guys were incredibly positive. Krim had his moments as well, so did Hoog. Illy and Shotzzy sharing a 1.31, 1.32 KD between them. This, of course, the final score, but as you can see right here, not the best of the side of the, the New York Subliners, I suppose, as you would expect at this time of the season. As Clay says, it's not just a scrib, it is the CDL kickoff. Clearly, Clayster certainly taking this as practice, but I imagine maybe if he was on the other side of this and he was the team dominating, he would maybe have a slightly different perception of the matter. Who really knows? At the end of the day, these don't count for points. Game 2, though, Los Angeles Guerrillas, Seattle Surge. LAG were the cow that Seattle Surge were farming last season, or effectively milking for all their points. This time around, though, it doesn't go that way. Seattle start out pretty slow on the game number 1. These beautiful graphics that Lionman was making for Breaking Point, so showing exactly how things went, started off pretty close, but then LAG pull away, win it 250 to 123, and Apathy up against his former team in Seattle Surge had an absolutely monstrous series right here. We go into game number 2, and on Raid Search and Destroy, Seattle Surge clutch up on this one. Los Angeles Guerrillas looks better early on, but then Pristini took over the game. I think he went 11 in 6 on this one. Very, very solid from him, and Seattle closing out 6-3. So I always felt like this map, or this match, was going to a game 5. It just felt like that's how it was going to go. Both teams were making a lot of mistakes in the Search and Destroy. They didn't look like a real consistent unit, and Pristini had certainly had his moments here, but once again showing that he's a very, very hot and cold player indeed. I think he started off the first hardpoint like 1 in 13, beginning, then he turns it around and does quite well by the end. Search and Destroy takes over, Control, he, comes off the boil a little bit, then game 4 he's back on top 4, right? So it's crazy to see, the inconsistency in their gameplay, and that's probably not something which is, going to take these guys to a particularly high level this season. And this matchup, there was a few mistakes back and forth, but definitely an entertaining one, and it did go down to the wire. So in game 3, Apathy here on, I think it was Garrison Control, absolutely dominated, 39-25, but Seattle clutched up in the end, wasn't enough to get them over the line here, so Seattle move up 2-1 in the series. Then we go to game 4, and Los Angeles Guerrillas clutch up on Moscow Hardpoint. Very intense game, one of the best ones of the day, as you can see, back and forth the whole way through. Seattle had a lead, but over to that P2 rotation, they finally get the job done and closing out 250-234 to take us to a game 5 which LAG was very, very comfortable in indeed, and they got the job done in the end. As Silly says, no place like home. Apathy down here in the vent, who was running riot, honestly, up against Seattle Surge. A very, very impressive series from him. They finish it off 3-2 up against the Seattle Surge, and once again Seattle's early game 5 woes from the start of Call of Duty League 2020 may well be reoccurring once again, and as Apathy does right here, 1.22 over the series. Very impressive from him, as I say, up against his former squad. Gunners with a 1.13, Octane just about managing to go positive, but these scorelines on the side of the Seattle Surge is possibly what we expected before the start of the season, right? Scorelines which aren't necessarily going to get this team the distance, but intrigued to hear your perspective, of course, in the comment section below. So as Octane says, GG's to LAG, Hardpoint have got to improve, but happy the season has finally started. Looking forward to the rest of the matches going forward. It honestly was a very entertaining day, a lot of matches going down to the wire, especially this next one we are about to discuss, that being Florida Mutineers versus the Atlanta FaZe. The COD League did a wonderful piece on Pharaoh in memory of his great legacy that he had in Call of Duty, in the real unfortunate circumstance, if you guys weren't aware, that he passed away now a couple of months ago, leaving Florida Mutineers in a difficult spot. But they get the job done on FaZe regardless. And this is very interesting. We'll probably have to go into this in slightly more detail tomorrow, as exactly what this could mean for FaZe, what it means for the Mutineers, the questions that Scump was asking a few days ago about the Bermuda Triangle style host that these guys seem to have. But map number 1 right here, FaZe end up taking it. Very, very tight affair. Looked like the Mutineers were going to take this the whole way through on Garrison Hardpoint, but Atlanta FaZe get the job done right in the end. They make a massive comeback through to these rotations, spawn trapping Mutineers in, play pretty much textbook Garrison, Hardpoint right at the very end. But Florida looked very competitive, maybe more competitive than a lot of people were expecting. And then game number 2, very, very close one. It looked like FaZe were going to bring the comeback here. I'm pretty sure Florida went up like 4-1 or something, then they brought it back to 4-4, and just about they clutched up in around 11. But yes, Skies with a 15 bomb to finish off the job, 2 KD over the course of it. Very impressive map from him, and Mbizi, of course, always going for those first bloods, maybe getting punished slightly more often in this 4 versus 4 environment than you would expect them to in a 5v5. Interesting, given that FaZe, you would expect them to be a very, very good search and destroy team, and they played pretty well, but in both of these S&Ds, they lost to the Mutineers. Maybe not something you would expect for the caliber of players on this squad. You could also argue maybe they're holding something back in terms of their S&D strats. They don't want to give anything away from when the season actually begins and the matches actually matter, but how much a team's actually doing that, it's somewhat difficult to say. In the Control then, 3-2, Atlanta FaZe clutched up big time. This was an incredible map, to be honest. It went all the way down to the wire. The round 4 was crazy, the round 5 was crazy. Neptune was going off. I want to give a massive shout out to him, right? Because this Neptune guy, only just come into the scene, barely really played any Call of Duty or Respawn before this. Comes into the Mutineers playing very solid Call of Duty. Doesn't even have a profile picture on the stream itself, but playing incredibly, incredibly well, and gives me great parallels to Shotzzy at the start of last season, who of course improved massively over the course of it, right? If Neptune does anything similar and continues to improve, as you would expect him to, this kid is going to be someone incredibly deadly, and is certainly going to give Mutineers a potential chance to compete for a championship and significantly upgrade their squad, especially on what they showed here up against the Atlanta FaZe. And as I say right here, very impressed by Neptune indeed, and he will only improve with time. Shotzzy parallels, and yes, Shotzzy was somewhat lackluster at the start of last season. That was on LAN, right? I suppose it's easier to have your debut online, but at the same time, you would imagine he continues to improve, and if he does, this squad is a scary squad on paper, and it already is, quite honestly. Then we get into map number 4 here, and Mutineers just absolutely body them. It was close early on here on Crossroads Hardpoint, but they absolutely ran away with it in the end, 251-17. Take it all the way to a game number 5 on Checkmate. This was a very interesting one, because Neptune was kind of doing these weird Claystone, I'm not sure Claystone would be too happy with some of these spots, right? He was hovering on the edge of the plane right here in this new spot, so these Halo kids and their movement, once again doing things that, well, no one else is aware of. Like, I didn't even know you could get up there. Pretty impressive stuff. But, yeah, would Clayster be happy with this? The who knows moment you guys might remember from back in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. But then the real interesting round was the Mutineers went up 1-0, and then for the 2-0 round, or the match that, well, FaZe was trying to get back into it, basically a 1-1, Simp was chasing down Awakening. Awakening was sitting in a corner. Simp got the kill, but then, well, the round ended and it said Florida Mutineers won. What's going on here? Then the next round starts and it actually says that they're up 2-1, right? So this is a glitch. I think I've actually had this in a GB before, where you get the kill and the time runs out at exactly the same time, and on the scoreboard it gives both teams a round. But in reality, if you look at the dots right here, that's actually who determines what's going on. So at 4-3 you can see it was actually 4-2, but FaZe had just got an extra round in terms of the numbers because of a bit of a glitch in the game. So actually the timer did run out and Florida did win the game, it does seem, or did win that round, and therefore they go on to win the series, or win this map, I believe, in a 6-3 fashion, I think, as you can see right here. So Florida complete the upset over Atlanta FaZe. Very interesting one, which we'll probably have to dive into in more detail tomorrow morning. But yeah, pretty remarkable stuff. These matches today, pretty expected, I think, on the most part. Dallas dominating New York Subliners, as expected. Seattle going the distance with Los Angeles Guerrillas, and well, LAG being slightly more disciplined, I suppose, in the search and destroy in some of those, well, latter rotations where they clutched up, and Seattle looking somewhat disjointed. But in this match, Mutineers very much impressive indeed, and against an Atlanta FaZe squad a lot of people were considering to be the best team in the game. Well, what could we potentially derive from this? Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see you next time.
He goes down to a seam as well. Wonderful stuff. Illy now in the 1 versus 2. Oh boy, makes it a 1 versus 1. Can Mac stop the bleeding and cut him down? The aggression's right here, but Illy! Oh no! Oh, it's a shot punch. It's a BO4 throwback. Illy's a beast.
Oh, we're going to see it all, too. That is all 3 kills in the feed. This is not a man in search you can afford to challenge. And poor Mac towards the end played it all right, found the right corner, but the reaction time from Illy.